The first time I ever used sign language or introduced to sign language was when I was about 11 years old, and I would go and visit my grandma and grandpa down in South Bend, Indiana. Around age 50, my grandpa lost his hearing due to a spinal cord disease, and he was given the surgery to get a cochlear implant. At age 50, the idea of learning sign language in a new form of communication was kind of difficult. So my grandpa received the cochlear implant, but my grandma always wanted him to learn sign language. So when I would go down there, we would go to the local community center and we would go to sign language classes for anybody in the community. And that's when I was first introduced to sign language. With my grandpa being deaf, that always encouraged me to learn another language, just like anyone else who had a family member that would speak Spanish or French or German. It was a language that was within my family, and it was something I was interested in learning. I don't think those that have the ability to hear take advantage of that ability. I compare that to, let's say, somebody who is paralyzed, for example. Do people who are able to walk take advantage of the fact that they are able to walk? Yes, we all have certain abilities and or things that we aren't able to do, and we accommodate for those things. So I'm not going to not walk because some others aren't able to, and I'm not going to take advantage of the fact that I can hear when others are not able to. The one thing that I do say I would take advantage of is the fact that I can help those that cannot hear. So when I'm in living my life, I watch my volume levels, because if I lose my hearing, I'm not able to pursue my dreams to be able to help those who can not hear. Someone asked me recently, what is sound? And when I first heard that, I didn't know how to answer. And the next day at work, I was sitting at my desk and I was listening around, and I heard all sorts of things. I heard things outside, I heard things within the office, I heard things, conversations in other rooms, and then I thought to myself, just the tiny simple things of keyboard clicks and all the sounds around us that we don't even hear. And part of me became sad to think that, let's say my instructor of my ASL class, she's deaf. She has never heard some of those simple sounds that I don't even think of in a single day. And so I think the question of what is sound is a lot greater than I can even answer, because there's so many, even just white noise. As you sit in a room, there's still sounds that you hear. And I've always wondered the level of hearing loss or deafness that is in each individual. Is it completely no sound? Is it a little sound? And I know that varies depending on the person, but I would love to spend a day in their shoes for once to hear the sounds that they hear. So recently someone asked me the question, what is sound? And when I first heard that question, I didn't know how to answer that. And then the next day, as I was getting ready for work, and when I got to work, I started to pay attention to the little sounds that we don't pay attention to, such as keyboard clicks or keys and locks and just white noise. And we kind of don't realize how important those sounds are to our everyday living. And personally, I would love to live in the shoes of someone who is deaf, just to be able to hear what specifically they do hear. Is it just completely no noise? Do they hear also a white noise? So I've always been curious about that. I know it depends on the person, but in regards to that, I'd love to know what sound is to someone who's deaf. So back in college, my original major was speech pathology and audiology. After growing up with my grandma and grandpa and So back in my freshman year of college, when I first started, my major was speech pathology and audiology. After having the exposure of American Sign Language, I wanted to work with deaf children. That's what I wanted to do. And speech pathology and audiology was that correct path. After I did my prereqs and got into the program, I learned that program was going to be more along the lines of teaching either individuals with speech impairments or deaf children how to talk. And the more I was in that program, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was sign with deaf children. And as an audiologist, I didn't think I would have that opportunity. So I decided to switch my major and become a communications major with an emphasis on American Sign Language. And the minute I took my first American Sign Language class, it was like a moment for me that I finally realized that this was my path. I picked it up quickly, and it just became a true passion of mine to finally be able to learn what a beautiful language it was. And I knew that I could turn this into a career and be an interpreter and be an ally for the deaf community as well. My hands are my tools. My hands are the future. My hands are what's going to take me into a life of success and a career that I love. You know, people dream about going to work and making a difference and not feeling like they're actually going to work, and my hands are what is going to give me that. And without my hands, I wouldn't be able to do what I want to do. I mean, the fact that I can communicate to others just off of my hands and my facial expressions, it's indescribable. So during the brief period of time that I have been studying American Sign Language and deaf culture, there's a major topic that comes up frequently: the debate between hearing aids and cochlear implants versus not having this technology. I personally believe that yes, cochlear implants and hearing aids are great technology to help an individual be able to hear if the parents choose that they would like their child to be orally spoken in English, Spanish, etc., or if they prefer to just sign. And personally, I believe it's very crucial for parents to realize that yes, this technology can help your child hear, but if that technology goes out at age 18, 25, 38, what is your child going to do then when the technology in their ear does not work anymore? They have no base language to fall back on. And I think that's the most crucial part. It's that learning American Sign Language is the base of their upbringing and their communication building. And then if you emphasize it with hearing aids and cochlear implants, then yes, that's your own choice. But I think learning American Sign Language is the most important part of that. When people find out that I have chosen to become an American Sign Language interpreter, there's mixed emotions. There's the group that think it is completely awesome, they think it's unique, and they think it's an interesting idea, you know, it's out of the ordinary. But there's also a group that give me a really strange look. Like, that's all you're going to do? And I get this question a lot, what are you going to do with that? And I want to say to them, I'm going to interpret. That's what it means. I'm going to be an interpreter. And I don't know what they're looking for. You know, do you want me to say I'm going to pair it with human resources in an office somewhere and have this prestige position? But to me, that's not what I want. I want to work within the deaf community. I want to help children. I want to help adults. And I just want to be that interpreter and be that ally to be the connection between the hearing and the deaf world. Whenever people hear that I am going to be an interpreter for American Sign Language and that I am learning sign language, I am constantly asked the question, is sign language universal? And when I first started learning, I thought so too, because it is a visual language and you'd think that it would be, but sign language is not universal. Like I was saying, I am learning American Sign Language, so that is within the American boundaries. So American Sign Language, or sign language I should say, started off in France. So there is a French sign language, there is a British manually signed language. So there's all these different ones around the world, and that's what makes it even more beautiful. You know, people say all the time, oh, it'd be so easy if there was just one specific language. And over the last 2 years, I've learned how beautiful learning different languages are. And I think that would take away from it if it was universal. As I assess myself during this process of becoming an interpreter, I see myself, and I understand that I will be able to be successful in this based off of the fact that I am patient and I am open-minded to different ideas. And I think when I'm interpreting, you have to be an ally to that individual, especially at doctor's appointments. You have to fully explain things, and if they aren't understanding, you have to stand up for them as well to the hearing doctor. And I think that being patient and kind and open-minded about a lot of different topics and the things that come your way are going to be really crucial when you are in situations where you need to interpret. Once I finally become an American Sign Language interpreter, I'm very excited to work in the schools. I always joke that I'm not good with children and things like that, but the minute that I volunteered with deaf children in a school previously before, it was incredible. It's a different experience for me, and I'm really looking forward to working in kindergarten classes or younger classes with deaf children as well. Also larger events, concerts and plays and things out of the ordinary, as well as doctor's appointments, even court time. Oh, can you stop? Sorry. Once I finally become an American Sign Language interpreter, I'm very excited to work within the schools. The younger children, it's really important to have someone around that is fluent in American Sign Language for them. Most deaf children are born to hearing parents, and so obviously those hearing parents, some of them will learn sign language, but to have an influence that is fluent in sign language is really important for them in the schools, and it makes learning at school much easier as well. And then also your out of ordinary events, so plays and concerts and things like that I'm really looking forward to do too, because it's just such a unique experience as well. Over the course of the next 2 to 3 years as I become an American Sign Language interpreter, the thing that I'm most excited about learning is deaf culture. You know, I can learn American Sign Language, and I have in the past, those classes, and it's still exciting, but I'm really excited to dig deep into the deaf community, the deaf culture, and the deaf world, and really learn how to be an appropriate ally and an appropriate worker within their community as well. I'm also interested to learn the interpreter skills as well, so the things that I should and shouldn't do, and just all the other aspects of the position in whole. So I started taking American Sign Language in Michigan, and now currently in Hawaii I started up again in my pursuit of becoming an interpreter, and it's a new environment and a new teacher as well. And my teacher for the first time is actually deaf, and the first time that she asked what my major was, I told her interpreting. And she said to me in sign language, American Sign Language interpreting. And I said, yeah. And she was so excited that I am pursuing that career. And I was surprised, because anybody else that I tell, it's mixed emotions. And she was overjoyed to know that I want to work within her community and that I find her world fascinating enough to dedicate my entire career towards that. And I think it created a really good bond between us, and I told her to be stricter with me as well during my learning, because this isn't just a side hobby, this is my dream to pursue this. So it was a very positive response. Throughout this process, it's really important for me to analyze my skills and abilities as well as my weaknesses. The skills that I truly believe that I have are my receptive skills at this point. So when other people are signing around me, I do a really good job of understanding what they're signing. So in this time, I understand that I need to work on my expressive skills, which would be me personally signing. And I think that follows for anyone learning a new language. You're going to understand other people speaking it, and you're going to pick up vocab before you're physically able to say it or sign it yourself. A weakness that I know I have is finger spelling, but that's a joke within the deaf world as well, that hearing people can't use their hands as well. So that's something that all of us really have to focus on and practice. A personal concern I have going into this career would be the ability to keep up. So when I will be having to interpret something, especially at an event or a graduation or a ceremony or things of that nature, the importance is to be as up to speed as possible. So I went to an event before, and the best interpreting I've ever seen, she was maybe a word behind him as I followed along. And that was really awesome to watch and see, and I was very impressed. And so that's a goal I've set for myself, is to be just like that. But that's also a concern because it scares me because I haven't had the training, but I know down the road it will be okay.